Hello and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's April 30th, 2022, and this is episode 85. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the Crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. All right, there's been some interesting movies that have opened up in theaters over the last couple of weeks, and a big release happening next week. So let's talk about it. First up is an animated feature called The Bad Guys. This is from DreamWorks Animation and Universal Pictures, and I've actually seen this film, and I'll be reviewing it later in the podcast. This is a movie that is about five criminals. They're actually anthropomorphic animals that live in a kind of alternate version of Los Angeles. But there's Mr. Wolf, who's voiced by Sam Rockwell, Mr. Snake, who's voiced by Mark Marone, Mr. Shark, voiced by Craig Robinson, Mr. Piranha, voiced by Anthony Ramos, and Ms. Tarantula, which is voiced by Awkwafina. And this group of outlaws are about to attempt their most challenging con yet, actually becoming model citizens. So this is a pretty fun comedy. As I mentioned, I'll be reviewing it here in a bit. It's rated PG by the Motion Picture Association for action and rude humor. Also playing in theaters is The Northman. This is an epic drama from Focus Features. It's from director Robert Eggers, and it follows a young Viking prince on his quest to avenge his father's murder. It's got a big cast, stars Alexander Skarsgård, Nicole Kidman, Anya Taylor-Joy, Ethan Hawke, Willem Dafoe, and singer and artist Bjork. So The Northman is rated R for strong, bloody violence, some sexual content, and nudity. I am probably going to be passing on The Northman, but if you see it and you think it's really good, let me know. Another interesting movie that opened up, I think in pretty wide release, is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. This is an action comedy from Lionsgate. And it stars, and maybe you see the trailer for this, it stars Nicolas Cage as himself. He's playing himself. Again, I think it's got some accurate things about himself, but I think of course, exaggerated for the comedy. In this movie, Nicolas Cage is creatively unfulfilled, and he's facing financial ruin. And so this fictionalized version of Nicolas Cage, he accepts $1 million to attend the birthday party of one of his super fans, who is played by Pedro Pascal. But it turns out that this super fan is a pretty dangerous dude. Things take a wildly unexpected turn when Nicolas Cage is recruited by a CIA operative, who in the movie is played by Tiffany Haddish, and is forced to live up to his own legend, channeling his most iconic and beloved on-screen characters in order to save himself and his loved ones. With the career built for this very moment, the seminal award-winning actor must take on the role of a lifetime, Nick Cage. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is rated R for language throughout, some sexual references, drug use, and violence. This movie actually looks pretty funny to me, so I'm interested in seeing it. I'm not sure I will see it in the theater, but if I do, of course, I will let you know, or I'll put some stuff out on my Instagram feed, which is @moviespap. Everything Everywhere All at Once is also another film that has recently opened up. It's a science fiction action film, and it's written by two guys named Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, and they call themselves Daniels. So it's directed by Daniels. But that means that it's Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, and I hope I'm saying their names correctly. It stars Michelle Yeoh and I love Michelle Yeoh, who plays a Chinese American woman, which she kind of is, being audited by the Internal Revenue Service, and she discovers that she must connect with a parallel universe to prevent a powerful being from causing destruction of everything, I guess, in the actual universe in which she lives. So this is another movie I'm very interested in seeing. I hear it's genre bending and kind of mind bending, or mind blowing. So anyway, they had me at Michelle Yeoh. So Everything Everywhere All at Once is rated R by the Motion Picture Association for some violence, sexual material, and language. Probably the biggest movie that's coming out the next couple weeks. It's next Friday, May 6th. This is the sequel to Doctor Strange. It's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Hopefully you've had a chance to see the trailer. It looks like it's. I hope it's gonna be fun. Clearly it's a Marvel movie. So if you're not into that sort of thing, it's probably not your movie. But it looks like there's all sorts of characters in this from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's got a lot of crazy special effects, not unlike the first Doctor Strange film. Benedict Cumberbatch is back playing Dr. Stephen Strange, and I'm stoked for this movie. I will definitely be reviewing it on the next podcast. One interesting thing about this Doctor Strange release on May 6th is that it's going to be. This is kind of like back in the day. A studio hasn't done this for a while. I don't think any studio has done this for a while. But playing in front of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness exclusively is a trailer for the brand new Avatar movie. This is this long-awaited sequel to Avatar, which was supposed to come out in like 2014. And then director James Cameron kept, I guess, doing new technology stuff and kept toying around with the script. And so now we've got 4 Avatar movies that are going to be opening up every other Christmas starting this Christmas. This film opens up on December 16th. They've given it a title too, so rather than just Avatar 2, it's called Avatar: The Way of Water. So anyway, I'm pretty stoked to see this new Avatar trailer as well. Again, it'll be playing exclusively in front of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and then probably in a week or two they'll put it online. But anyway, I think you get a fun way to kind of drive business to see Doctor Strange as well. So there you have it. So some movies to think about seeing in the theaters. The Bad Guys, which I'm just going to be reviewing here in just a minute. The Northman. Oh, maybe not The Northman. I don't want to see that. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Everything Everywhere All at Once. And coming soon, as in next week, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, with a exclusive trailer for Avatar: The Way of Water. So, in reviews this week, as I mentioned, just want to talk a bit about The Bad Guys, which is the new film from DreamWorks Animation and, of course, Universal Pictures, which is the owner now of the DreamWorks Animation Studio. I hate to even start with this, but I'm going to anyway. I'm just not a big fan of DreamWorks Animation. Every once in a while, I think they nail it. Of course, Shrek was very funny. I loved their initial film, The Prince of Egypt, or one of their earlier films. I think that's a terrific film. But for me, overall, I think the DreamWorks Animation, I don't love their animation style. I think the films have just, again, clearly I'm not the target audience. I think kids really like it. You know, I was on an airplane a couple of weeks ago, and there were a lot of families with young children on this plane, and I kid you not, every one of those kids that was sitting around me, they were watching the latest Boss Baby movie. I think it's called Boss Baby Family Business. They were watching it on their in-flight entertainment screens, you know, on the seat back in front of them. So that was always kind of jarring. I had to just discipline myself to not look up because I didn't want to see that horrible imagery of that film. And, you know, truth be told, I never even saw it, and I didn't want to. However, the bad guys, it has got a really cool animation style that they're using. Of course, it's CGI, but it really looks different. I mean, if you were to compare this movie to, again, what the animation that they did for this latest Boss Baby movie, which to me has been kind of like classic DreamWorks style over the past many years. This stuff that they're doing for the bad guys was a real departure. So I was very impressed with the look of the film. It's got a very interesting color palette, and much of the movie looks hand drawn. I mean, it's an action comedy. As I mentioned earlier, it's got anthropomorphic animals that are set in this funky version of Los Angeles, but where humans live too. So we've got animals and humans, and there's not necessarily rhyme or reason how they're, you know, apart or together or whatever, but clearly this bad guys group, they are all animals. As I mentioned, there is a pickpocket, and it's Mr. Wolf. He's voiced by Sam Rockwell. There's a safecracker who is Mr. Snake, voiced by Mark Marone. A master of disguise, which is again played more for humor. It's Mr. Shark, voiced by Craig Robinson. The kind of the short fused muscle, so to speak, of it is Mr. Piranha, played by Anthony Ramos, and again funny, giving us, you know, because of the size of Piranha and whatnot. And then the shark-tongued expert computer hacker is Miss Tarantula, who is voiced by Awkwafina. So they decide they get busted for their latest heist, and they make an arrangement that their punishment is actually trying to be good and be model citizens. And so it's that kind of sets up the humor, but of course there's a big plot and all this other stuff going on, but it's a fun movie. It's not just absolutely brilliant. I mean, you know, I don't think that the script is necessarily great. Of course, there's a pervasive fart joke. I mean, what's a DreamWorks movie without a fart joke, right? Sadly. But this fart joke actually kind of plays into the plot, but still, I always roll my eyes. But again, I'm thinking that kids are going to like it. I think adults are going to like this kind of cool new animation palette and style. And it's not a terrible film. I give it 3.5 stars out of 5, which for a DreamWorks movie is pretty good for me. Just FYI, it's based on a book series by Scholastic, and the author of that book series is Aaron Blobby. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. This film was directed by Pierre Perifel from DreamWorks, and this is his featured directing debut. So good for him. I hope this is going to mean some cool projects for him into the future. So for a family film and just for something different, I think The Bad Guys is a pretty decent choice. All right. I just want to give a report about my experience last weekend. I went into an in-person film festival. First time that's happened. I guess I did go to that LDS film festival, but this was full scale and tons of movies in multiple days, and it was in Los Angeles. So this was the Turner Classic Movies Classic Film Festival for 2022. This film has been, this film festival has not been held since 2019. In 2020 and 2021, they didn't hold. TCM did not hold an in-person festival. They did it online, and or again just on the network. Basically on the network, and then on HBO Max, the streaming service. And that was fun. I mean, I was able to participate in that, but nothing's quite like actually going to the film festival and seeing these movies on the big screen. And Turner Classic Movies returned back with in a big way, and they did such a nice job. I honestly just can't say enough good about the team at Turner Classic Movies. This is a big event in that there are like over 100, I'm going to call them events, but 100 either screenings or book signings or panel discussions, just different events that have got to be, staffed and get people in and out of there, and not to mention getting the talent there and whatnot. So there's a lot going on. And TCM just did it with, they just absolutely aced it, I think. This event took place, it was last week. It was April 21st through 24th. This happens in Hollywood, in California, in Los Angeles. The headquarters of this is basically, or I guess the main theater that they do it is at the TCL Chinese Theater, formerly known as Grauman's Chinese Theater or Mann's Chinese Theater, depending on when you became familiar with this movie theater. But it's just one of the great movie palaces in the U.S., if not the greatest. I absolutely love this theater. They have recently, well, it's been within the last 5 to 7 years, I think, if I'm not mistaken, converted it into an IMAX. So it's a licensed IMAX theater, but it's big, it's beautiful, it's just fantastic. Right next door to the Chinese theater is a big shopping mall, as well as the Dolby Theater, which is the venue where the Academy Awards are held. When it's not COVID weirdness, but that's where the slap happened and all the all of that nonsense. But in this mall, and there's stores and restaurants and stuff, but they also have a 6-screen multiplex. So TCM takes over 3 of the screens within that multiplex traditionally, and they did that again this year. So there's those 2 venues, and then they've got a couple of other venues that fluctuate from year to year. I spent most of my time either in the multiplex or at the Chinese theater. One day, I think I didn't leave the multiplex. It's all films that were there. I saw 15 films over the days. And I mentioned there were all these events. They've got so many different movies playing from different genres and different things. And then each of the films is introduced by somebody, and they typically, TCM brings in somebody to talk about the film who either worked on it, if there's somebody still alive and available, or just some expert scholar or whatnot. So there's always some interesting something to learn about the film. They provide some context to it, and then you get to see the film on the big screen. Some of the films were projected in with a digital print. Some of them were 35 millimeter. One of the highlights was seeing recently restored 70 millimeter screening of the film Spartacus, Stanley Kubrick's giant epic from 1960 with Kurt Russell in it, and Gene Simmons. That was just, amazing. I kind of had to pinch myself. I couldn't believe that it was happening. I'll put a link in the podcast notes on my blog to my Letterboxd page where I've listed all these movies. But I just want to talk about a couple of highlights. I got to see The Pajama Game on the big screen. And this is one that I had seen last year when I was doing my big musicals watch. This is a film that stars, it's from 1957. It's an adaptation of the Broadway play, directed by George Abbott, and who worked on the original Broadway production, and then Stanley Donen, who again is one of the great Hollywood musical directors ever, and starring Doris Day and John Raitt, and it was just pure delight just to see this movie on the big screen. I loved watching it just even on my TV, but that was just fantastic. Another musical that I saw on the big screen, which is one I've seen on TCM before, and it's called It's Always Fair Weather. It's from 1955, again directed by Stanley Donen and Gene Kelly, and starring Gene Kelly. This movie is one I've watched on TCM, and I haven't really liked it. And I think that for many Hollywood musical fans, I think it's quite different because it's set in modern day, again 1955, and it's Gene Kelly and Dan Daly and Michael Kidd play 3 World War II buddies, and they get back to the U.S. from the war, and they promise to meet in 10 years. And all 3 of them, each of them have been handed different challenges in their life, and when they come back together after this 10 years, they are so different. They decide they don't even know each other. Gene Kelly is kind of turned into this gambler dude, a bit of a huckster, boxing promoter, and just stuff that's just not particularly savory or legal, right? Or law-abiding, I should say. Dan Daly is a recovering alcoholic whose marriage is on the rocks. Michael Kidd plays a guy he's a happy family man, but he's got just a little burger joint that he owns, and anyway, it's these guys. They 10 years later they've got nothing in common, and it's kind of a bit of a downer in a way, at least when I watched it on TCM. But at the film festival, Gene Kelly's widow, her name is Patricia Ward, and she goes by Patricia Ward Kelly. But she's really made it her mission. She was quite a bit younger when she married Gene Kelly. And again, this Gene Kelly had been married multiple times before this final marriage, before he died. But she's really made it her mission to keep Gene's legacy alive, to keep it accurate. She was pleading with people, like, don't believe everything you read on the internet about Gene Kelly. Not that it's full of all sorts of negative stuff, but one of the things in particular she was talking about is that, and I had heard this too, but there's like this pervasive thing that Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen, who had directed Singing in the Rain together, and then they had directed this film, that after this film, and it wasn't a huge hit, but that their relationship kind of crumbled, and they really didn't see each other. They fell apart. But Gene's widow was saying that actually is not true, that they remain friends and friendly for the rest of their lives. And there you have it. But uh, because Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen, their direction is so good, specifically in their musical numbers, and to see them on the big screen as intended, nothing on, that you see on TV that would be like pan and scan or something where the full shot is broken up. When you see these films as they were, intended, I don't know, it changed my perspective. So this went from a film that I just kind of didn't like that much to one that I incredibly respect, and I will watch it again with pleasure. It's got two or three really quite, I guess two in particular quite famous scenes that you might maybe have seen in some other thing. But there's a scene when the three veterans, when Gene Kelly, Dan Daly, and Michael Kidd all get back from World War II, they go on a drinking binge, but they do this dance with garbage can lids, and they put like the lids on one of their feet or on a foot on each. Anyway, they're like, so like one foot has a garbage can lid on it, and they're doing this. They do this amazing dance, and again, it's just filmed incredibly well, and seeing that on the big screen was amazing. The crowd we saw it with just went nuts after each one of these musical numbers. There's the famous scene where Gene Kelly is roller skating through. It's filmed on a soundstage on the MGM lot, but they make it look like it's New York City, and Gene Kelly is roller skating and singing, and it's fantastic. And then Sid Charisse has this absolutely knockout scene with a group of boxers. I mean, they're dancers, but they're dressed up as boxers, and it's called "Baby You Knocked Me Out," and it knocks me out every time I see it. And then just to see it on the big screen just blew my mind. So that was a huge highlight for me. Saw my very first Will Rogers movie. Will Rogers was, a big movie star in the early 1930s. This film was called Too Busy to Work, and it was really charming. I was really happy to get to see that. Saw Heaven Can Wait, which is it's the 1978 film with Warren Beatty. This one is a remake of Here Comes Mr. Jordan. And but they gave it this title. But Warren Beatty was there in the house, and I couldn't decide if Warren Beatty was senile or if he was just being difficult, or both. I think he was a hard interview for Ben Mankiewicz, the TCM host, but still super fun. One last film to talk about was it's a film called The Legend of Drunken Master. Sometimes it's known as Drunken Master 2. It's a Jackie Chan movie made in 1994. It was made in Hong Kong. And it had kind of a limited and weird release in the U.S. It was brought to the U.S. I had never heard of this film before. It was brought to the U.S. originally around, I think, 2000. So, years after it had been released in Hong Kong, and in other international markets. And the one that they brought to the U.S., they had done an English dub for it, which I had heard was horrible. And then it had received some other edits, and so it just was not as good. So this movie was, basically a restored version of the original. It was in Chinese with English subtitles, and then none of these, wacky edits or whatever happened with that original English print. And it just absolutely wowed me. What happens to this? So this is set, in kind of ancient Chinese times. Sorry, I'm not being very accurate with the historical timeline. But he, what happens with Jackie Chan's character is if he gets drunk, there's like this drunken boxing style that he goes into that just, of course, can defeat the enemy. But it is so much fun to watch because he's playing, like a drunk person, but who's able to do all these incredible martial arts moves. And of course, Jackie Chan does all of his own stunts. and you just can't believe what he's doing. They have outtakes at the end that show many of the injuries that happened to not only to Jackie Chan but other cast members. But that was so fun, and of course, seeing it with the enthusiastic festival crowd, everybody was going nuts over it, and I just really enjoyed it. So, anyway, I could go on and on. The Turner Classic Movie Classic Film Festival this year was classic movie heaven, and would just highly recommend this festival to anybody who likes seeing classic movies on the big screen. My surmise is this: it will happen again next year, hopefully, and again probably in the same time period. Kind of, it fluctuates from kind of between April and May, just depending on what's going on with. I mean, there's so many pieces of this that have to come together, but I think typically they announce it in around November, so we'll know later this year about schedule for next year. But anyway, love the TCM Classic Film Festival. It's just such a great experience. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Again, links and more information about the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. Links are also on the blog. And follow me on Instagram. My handle is @moviespap, as in past and present. As always, I hope you'll enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be from the past or the present. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, be safe out there and dedicate yourself to the truth.